As we come into the mechanics, try to understand your track lines, how it center lines its communication to surface. Try to understand our compartment settings, all calculation, our ecosystems and travels. Mechanism high force, traverse of timelines, new operation set location system, recognizing you through all calculations. It's not what I say, it's how I say it through frequency. Your body only reacts to its setting. Its energy formation line connects to the lulls, its frequency that has in correlation high attractions, and everything through its frequency comes into its harmonics. That's the chronological order, a universal law. It all tracks and set location, setting, and position of its operation system. Positions of track lines, species communication lines, sending high travels. Hola, ¿cómo estás? Setting high interference. Now, high interference is all levels of how you set your inhibitors and line rotation centers, attractions. Really understand the modifications of you through your divisions, your dimensional layers. How many track lines of high interference do I have in position of its operation locations? What am I saying? What is the importance of all this? Well, it's all you understanding you, how to use your body and how it reacts through its vibration of its frequency, of its harmonics, of its operation. Okay, we have to get out of the equation line sentence because the body now, the connection of your earth is more seen back in its original design. And when I say original design, I mean its Merkaba of its own set location, of its placebo, of its thought. One channel, one thought, one stream, one interference, one position, one program. Okay? So coming in your thought channels is really to understand how to use your calculation, how position, travel calculation, setting their travels in position to its operation server location, your cerebros. Your cerebros changing communication to higher level settings of frequency. Your earth perception is changing this morphing calculation lines. Your moon is going back in time, its application travel lines. Your sun is getting ready to get positioned to its operation to sales. That's what's happening. When you want to be aware of what's happening with you in a 24 cycles applications, same being line center, of course, setting line communication, your system and travels. Directing lines of modification line center. Know exactly what's each day line center's high position, your travel communication, the letters, numbers, shapes, and symbols, and how you see these things and making the high force line position as equal line communication and travel settings. So getting into your position locations, try to understand you through modification. Try to understand you through all different lines of angles. Try to understand you through the Merkaba, because that's all your calculation, your body is just a vessel of communication. Nothing else, nothing more. But it's knowing how to use it. Okay, spacing line correlating high interference is coming mind over matter and position track lines. It's coming in all calculation of its own autopilot. The body's taking all position location travel lines into its atmosphere location setting. It's going to go off in its own system to its locations. Now you have to be aware of what's going on with the body of its reaction. Okay, know exactly how it really has to get in its cycles. Everything comes in its cycles, calculation high interference, track calculation high position of its operation system. Setting lines of communication line position to its calculation stream. So it's all levels of direct panels. Once you understand how to use that through modification, this gets you levels of channel streams, not calculation stream locations. Okay, so remember, it's all calculated when general sets out the tone and inline interference. They only hear vibration frequencies and its harmonics. Everything else is applications and track connections, right? So it's responding to all that setting. And your body is basically going on its own division, its own calculation stream. Okay, so it's important you understand the one graph line settings and traction, indirect signal, modification to system, travel communications, directing lines of calculation, all level settings, high position to its operation surface and its applications. Traverse and time sequence puts everything in plateau. Traverse and times sets lines of zero operation surface. Positions of patterns and center line communication, right? So it's not what I'm saying, it's how I'm saying it. Frequency. Frequency. Frequency audio line settings and travel, right? Jump scar, so location line centers. Setting tone, position, locations, variation tactics. Setting lines of communication, and again, with space discoveries, what we did in position travel lines is you get into self-modification, setting the travel calculation lines of generation screen lines of restoration, getting your position travel lines, how to use your communications to your systems of diamond course application. Direct lines of panels in 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 set line connections. Travel position at all levels, waving line cycles, high travel communications. Directing lines, box line center, travel communication of center. Lacing lines of communications of 2-line track locations. Directing lines of communication, half pipe of 6. Sets lines equal line communication of the moon. Moon sets line calculation of the sun, and track calculation line center. Zero gravity line interference, 0, 0, 0, decimal point of 0, 0, 1, and track location of 0, 0, 1 line set location of 7, and track location setting. Directing lines, communication lines of platforms of 0 gravity. Setting line position of 0 line rotation, center position, travel, communication of point system, set location. Ground lines, operation surface. Laser direct signal locations, modification lines, stream interference, 1 position of balance line, calculation setting, solar stream, and line rotation interference. Now, the position of track lines comes to high calculation modification. Okay, location grids and rainbow graph lines, set location of 24 measures and set location scales of balance position of travel. Okay, that's my equation. Okay, so remember, it's not what I say, it's how I say it. And the connections of modification picks up the frequency. So setting position of tone settings, 1 track line conditions. All right, this is unit track line. Okay, 2 provision line cycles, phase direction of time sequence. Okay, so communication, right, communicates back. That's all it does all the time, right? One's a triangulation and one's a box. Okay, male, position, location of female. Okay, in consciousness. And that's a determination line interference, Y line center and position, all calculation, 8 line center interference, equal lines connection at all levels, collaboration and line conditions, cerebral. The condition of the brain frequency pattern sees position of location line interference of a box triangulation or triangulation box. Okay? Now the conscious line stream recognizes channels of communications to its program. Now getting in program line communications of box centers, 2 box locations overlapping, 3 line triangulation high position programs, set position to its operation surface. Position of ground lines, high calculation stream locations, right? Waving patterns, calculate high interference, equal lines communications, coming home, interactions, pressing enter, and position travel. Okay. Center calculation lines, 1 signature, 3 line signatures, and 4 track location. Sun comes in, moon comes in, only stops in position of travel and direction of time. Okay. Sending the line connection, 60,000 comes out, line position locations in the home centers and center communication center of operation. Direct communication line centers and position location track lines. This is where Jupiter comes in into waving line streams and direct signal. Calculate high interference, sets lines of communication line centers in a colossal stream and line connection line system of traction. Directing lines of communication lines of Neptune, right, sets position travel lines. Recognizing communication lines, all framing communication your day, month, and year, position travel calculation line interference, and position of travel communication its operation. Setting calculation lines, setting direct signals, position. Now, directing lines of communication comes in line setting, 2 calculations of your moon, and travel and recognition of timelines, and center line interference, and 0 of gravity location. Okay, that's my equation. Okay, box frequency panels. Now, directing lines of communication lines gets very complicated now because we're going through bracket interference and alpha line settings and position of 1 line signature, position locations into theta communication of box center. Okay, box center direction time sequence, box lines and position of 3 box locations. All right, 3 measures and 2 panels, track communication operation surface. Now, position line lines sets lines of theta box line, mixes of high position locations, delta line communication waves, and position of panels. Calculate line, human resonance, ground lines, operation surface, direction of timelines, calculate high interference, modification line screens, overlapping streamline centers, and travel communications. That's my equation. All right. Mechanism of power, direction of time sequence, heat signature streams, and set position of size graph activity. Modification line centers high interference inhibitors, inhibitors line interference, and position location of mass, volume, velocity. All right. Velocity line channels, vacuum, volume, velocity, location, 3 settings and interactions. Direct lines of heart direction of time sequence, heart line centers, heart line centers, heart line centers, and 3 track line conditions. Direct lines of 2 panels, and set location of ground settings. Operation of the sun, operation of the moon, correlates high center interference, travel direction of time sequence, and pattern direction of timelines, high calculation lines, the center of operation. That's my equation. Okay. Mechanism high force lines, streams its interference position of channels, 1 screen line calculation lines, all right? S line channel, line condition all levels, 1 atom line rotation, 2 track locations, all right? Directing calculation lines, high position location of its projection, right? Crossing line signals. Now, the next 8,000 crosses line stream, okay? Direct lines calculation starting here at position locations. Ends center lines of rotation center and calculation setting. Hyperdrive, triangulation, and reset position program location modification line centers, molecules, and circle line calculated high interference H line rotation centers. Direct calculation line interference. Multiple levels to screen lines. Coordinates over pi, coordinates over sector, coordinates of vector, and quads, and set location, travel setting, high positions, operation set locations. Okay, calculation lines, 4 lines of 3, 3 lines of 7, and track location. Direct lines calculation line interference. Complicated stuff, right? Because we're coming to high calculation line centers and structures, the modification line streams, and molecule structures of design. Direct communication lines where the moon serves location setting. 100,000 lines of all calculation system. 300,000 lines streaming location of clock lines, high position modification lines. Triangulation to reset position programs and calculation. All right. Direct lines of modification, triangulation to reset position of programs. Triangulation line center location of 3 lines of measure, 3 lines of calculation, 3 programs, 3 panels and communication of travels direction of time sequence. Done by equation. Okay. So higher levels of models basically modulates the restoration line centers of regeneration schemes and modifications of cell line connections. Put a position location of cell. So that's lines calculation of levels, lines, and energy lines of communication. Okay? Really understand the track lines of the sun and the moon opens all signals into these implications. Now, this implicates the levels, sets lines of energy, crosses lines of communication lines, levels of communication line stream interference into waving cycles, dimensional line sails, and calculation stream location. See the solar sail? All right, directing line calculation lines. Moon's here, traveling very fast in line rotation centers, getting recognition of the time sequence in 3 lines of provision and set locations. Travel direction of time sequence, triangulation and reset position of 3 lines, 3 calculations, and 3 ground centers. This opens all signal line communication, sending crop circle location and position of balance. Okay, done by equation. All right, so center lines of communication is synergy over pi. Nobody's been in that track line conditions. So getting in that line center is a high position location, higher lines its volume. Very good, Chips. Volume over velocity, velocity over calculation lines of value, value communication lines and acceleration, acceleration line calculations of pi, and direct signal. Now, directing line calculation lines of perception comes in position location attraction. Film projectors and 2 track lines, okay, only in one setting. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and 12 locations. Cross lines of 12, sets lines calculated time interference, 1 to 12, 12 lines and 1. 1 to lines of 1 line settings and 1 position of travel calculations. Platitude, platitude, platitude. In line communication travel lines, direction of time sequence and position of patterns. Now, directing lines of walk surface. We take the volume, velocity, and positional calculation setting. We set up the position location settings and track location of its backing. Direct line calculation lines cross the line stream. That's the mechanism of high position travel calculations. Structures of design through its dimensional sail. Sets travel calculation of 2-point systems of travels, 3-point line centers and travel communications. Setting line connection height centers and new platforms in communication setting of 0 calculation line, rotation centers, and track location. Okay, done by question. All right. Setting coordinates and travel calculation lines of the moon has to recognize its location system. Okay, its location system. Okay, its location system. Okay, its location system. Okay, so getting that line interference, the calculation of letters, numbers, symbols, and shapes, read lines is calculation stream. Directing lines calculation of 0, position of 1, 2, and 3, set location of 4 settings. Track calculation line interference, that sets locations of A, B, and C equals lines of 1, 2, and 3. Sets line calculation lines. We set a Z line rotation center attraction. Right? Direct lines of A, absent lines. Balance communications into communication and collaboration. Direct calculation line interference, that's 4 over 3 set locations. There it is. Dome centers attractions, right there through calculation. Done by equation. Okay. Measures of high calculation lines of the moon, center lines of communications, opens all communication of panels, directing lines, calculation line interference, and direction of time lines, colossal calculation lines, crosses line signals, and position indications, calculation. Look at that. Look how powerful that is. Directing lines and position location. All right. Now, we set position of sonars, track location of 3 lines, and center position. Sets communication line calculation, the highest centers of travel. Okay. Mechanism high force. XT1000 comes at line signal. XT1000 comes up on line rotations. XT1000 comes in ground shift location. Okay. Directing line communications in position of all calculation line settings. numbers, symbols, letters, and shapes, and 4 track location. Calculates line centers a high position location high system. Puts letters A, B, and C in track line connection. Direct lines of 1, 2, and 3 track location. Okay, very powerful set connections. Towers of communication lines. Directing lines in high position of programs, satellite connection settings, and Wi-Fi position of travel communications. See the intelligence? Done by equation. Very complicated stuff for dimensional sales. So work Turex lines, calculation line interference, letters, number, shape, symbols, all position, location, and system of travel. Okay. Okay, so we're graphing lines to screens, 4 track lines, and 3 line measure. Okay. 4 calculation lines, all positions of portals, and calculation line, and 3 travel communication of port of communication. Okay. Very complicated stuff. So you have to recognize your numbers and what they do through track calculation line centers because it's all levels of GOD and mixing high positions. But know exactly how to use the scale lines of 0, 0, track line condition lines of 1, 0, 0, 0, track location of 2, 0, 0, and 3 line conditions of travel communications. So that's heart, mind, and soul and traction. Okay. Directing lines, communication lines of 3 lines of 1, 3 lines of 2, and 3 lines of revision, and location another 3 line communications of pi. And set line conditions, balance position drum lines 3, 3, 3, and 3 line center locations. Higher levels of modification, graphing calculation lines of solar sails and track location line system, high position and power. Sets lines of 1, 2, 3, and 4 set location of dimensional sail. Sets calculation cross lines 1, 2, 3, and set position of operation. Directing communication lines of 3 lines of 1, portals communication setting, a center communication to its operation. Done by equation. Mechanism of high force line settings. Calculation, high interference, all calculation, setting, and modulation. Now, navigation screens, getting calculation lines of consoles, communication of communications, into telepathy, into telegraphing, and to telecommunication, a 3 set location of travels. Direct line connections of pi represent time sequence, teleportation lines, calculation half byte, sets line to 2 track location line center, and dimensional sail, and track location setting, position its operation. Center line connection centers, and center. Okay. Operation surface, direction of time, line conditions, high center interference, of time capacitor, position of travel. Direct calculation lines. Crosses lines, high center interference, and panels communications. Direction time lines, opposite direct location setting, and walking line surface and travel. That way equation. Okay. Compute systems and travel direction of timelines. Now this coordinates calculation setting into your positions of pi. Pi line recognition of timeline sequence. Pi direction of time sequence, splits and lines anomaly, 3 track locations. 1 provision, 2 line cycles, 3 track locations. All right. Clock line centers, in line calculation of 6, and position location of 7, and 8 line centers of center position. 1 panel and 2 track lines of 3 graphs. Direct calculation lines into balance position location and highways. Line centers lines is cross line streams and 2 track locations. 3 lines of revision, 2 lines of sectors, 4 lines of correlation, 5 lines of revision, 6 lines of setting, and 7 location system of travel calculations. Crossing line calculation lines is center line communication lines in open sequence. So platitude division lines crosses line stream over lines of 8 and 7 and 6 and provision of cycles. Direct communication lines of 2, sets position locations, 3 line center splits the anomalies, and track location of balance, and yin and yang of process calculation. Oh, solar flare. Direct location. Directing lines, signal location modification, right? Send the calculation lines into your connections of your Merkaba, tesseract, and your tetrahedron and set position. Done by equation. All right. Getting track interference is really understand how to use communication to online settings. Interference line set location to its intelligent line location of AI calculation stream. Okay. So interline calculations awareness, crosses line communications, interlines is line connections, interfaces track location. Now to get direct line signals, the graph calculation is all calculation line streams, sets position of 2, 3 panels, and track location of graphs. Direct lines of roadways, graph location setting, and travel direction of time sequence into infinity 8 of loop location. Direct line calculation line X2000, 1 center line connections. Hotel signal location intelligence, calculation lines and high center interference, in all communication interdimensional line screen, equal line calculation center what's above, that's below line rotation interference, no more separated center line connections, Merkaba tetrahedron, line connections cross line, stream interference, done correlation of time sequence, travel direction of line rotation centers, position modification, navigation, stream location of center attraction. Done by equation. Okay. So getting mechanism line calculation setting, the mind has to set up tone. Now, setting up tone line conditions, your graph lines, point system, and 3-track line conditions, right? Traverse and timelines, sets lines of arrow indicators. Arrow indicators, line rotation centers of track communications on point system travel. Direct calculation lines of 0, impulse location of 0, impulse location of 0, impulse location of 0, and set location of 4 tracks. Calculation of 3 lines of travel direction of time sequence, patterns direction of timelines, pointation line centers and point system, and 3-point system line connections. Calculation line interference. Jupiter comes in line, crosses line stream, and 3 lines of communication line streams and high and center interference and information lines of 4 track locations and 5 centers and high calculation. That my question. Okay. So the information panel and position track lines comes in their calculations. Now Neptune sets lines of communications, opens all signals and modification lines of sonar and alpha line rotation and travel. Okay. Direct calculation lines, indirect signals into one position. Okay. So laser calculation 2-point systems, calculations of pi, direct line connections, right? Mechanism of high force lines, center line communications, opens all signals, opens all panels, portals communication lines, in-traffic and timelines, and a location grid, and center line connections of security line defense lines in high position. Okay, that's my equation. Okay, so mechanism line center is source recognition, center lines of calculation. Point systems, we cross line signals. So the panel communication line crosses string, gets the XT1000 out of position and the ground lines, 1 position, 2 track lines, and 3 settings, 3 line position locations, right? They implicate line rotations, crossing lines, later direct signals of point systems. Line calculation lines is 012 to 024 in traction, okay? Now this is where it comes into modification lines of triangulation resets, see? So triangulation resets comes out of its position location into higher calculation lines of base recognition times a box line frequency. Phase direction of time lines, 2 lacing lines of communications. Solar sail track lines of center communication center of operation. Very complicated stuff. Done by equation. See the face recognition? See? Face recognition. It's always a face. Okay, so in that line setting, the track to its communication line over forest lines triangulation reset. This is the oscillator's high interference of Isa Horus. Now the correlating high position travel calculator lines has an H-line rotation center of track locations. Setting position location no longer in equal-line communications. The balance lines equal lines comes in flywheel in position with its atom. The atom line circle location setting and travel is of 7. Sets lines of orb lines in probing position of travel calculation center position. Sets lines of communication in 3 line settings, travel calculation in 3 line settings, and position of 4 line rotation centers and track location. Direct calculation of box line, Omni highway calculation streamline, lacing lines communication ground centers, and center communication line system to its calculation. That my equation. All right, that's right, Chris. So we take calculation of equal line calculations. So no more double helix, we're in a 3-track line. Okay. Bypass line track lines and 3 lines of 4 graphs. Okay. So we got 3 lines of provision, heart, mind, and soul, and we add another 3, right, to 4 set locations. All right. So that's 4 lines of 3 equals lines of calculation 7 equals lines of 8 positions and 8 positions of travel, space and time interaction. Okay, that's my equation. Now the point system comes into box now. Traverse and times. Calculation line interference of 3 box location centers and travel calculations. Direct and line calculation crosses line stream. That's a mechanism over power, box line frequency. 3 lines of channels, 3 line provisions, 3 line box lines, and 3 travel calculations. Direct lines of communication of all settings. No more separation travels. And that line center in position of body frame goes off on its own, and all position of its operation centers, high calculation settings, 3 line provisions, 3 cycles, 3 balance communication settings, and calculation. That my equation. All right. So the mechanism of high force lines, the audio pilot is now in the body fragmentation line stream. 1 graph calculation, right? 2 track lines of provision, 3 line cycles, 0 line operation, 1 calculation line interference, 2 track line connection high centers, 3 line provisions, 4 line tracks, 3 line communication setting and travel. Now, directing lines of communication line interference, 3 lines of communication. This is where we come in decimal point of 0, a track location of 1. 1 track line calculation of 0, track location of 1. 3 sets lines of 2 track lines of 0, 0, 0, 3 track locations of 1. 2 track lines of point system of 2, 0, 0, track location of 200 line rotation centers. Track location 2 lines, sets position of 2 equals lines of 1, 1 equals lines of 1 equals lines of communication of 3 in track location. Direct calculation of 3 lines of 0, 0 operation line centers, pendant communication line centers, and communication lines 4 of 3, set line condition line centers, traverse of timelines, high position travel calculation of point system travel. Now, in direct signal, modification line setting, points lines. This is where you come into the H line rotation center of travel calculations. Okay, so the equal line position location is no longer in line rotation, a separation. Center calculated line is a Merkaba, comes into box line rotation. Rectangular communication cycles and calculation. Direct calculation line interference. So we take the line position location to the right line rotation centers, 3 lines of provision, 3 line cycles, and 3 calculation streams. Direct lines of point system 0, 0, 0, sets lines of 1. That's 3 line communication lines. We set position of 4, we add line conditions of 3, sets position location of 7, and track location lines of 8, 8 lines of 9, 9 lines of 10, travel calculation 11, and 12 in line rotations. Sets communication 144, track line connections back in 0 calculation. Done by equation. Very complicated stuff. Measures accountability in line rotation centers, the accountability in the line position of measure. Scales lines of travel calculating line position to its operation surface and set locations. Done by equation. Very complicated through formula. All right, so I think we're getting an understanding location of travel settings. Here comes the mechanism of high position of power through intelligent locations, based recognition. How you set up lines connection to setting of travel. Okay, so mechanism force lines. The direct signals comes into modulation. Now this comes into restoration. Regeneration line settings. We've got a star line rotation center. Okay. Travel calculation of point system in 3 settings. Okay. Know exactly what stars do. Stars are basically point system to star command centers. They're track location line systems of orbs and travel communication setting, direct signals, modification system, and center calculation. So it's really to understand how they surface line calculation setting, the travel line setting, star of set lines, star centers, star position of star points, 3 line centers, calculation setting, position is operation. So inline rotation, the star itself is its point direction of 5 elements of set location line settings. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it's 4 lines equals lines at high position of 5. 5 lines location high centers. 2 over track line conditions of 7. So that means 8. 8 position of travels. That's 2 bracket community 8 line centers. 2 bracket communication 8 position of travel communication of point systems. All right. So center calculation line settings. Coming into travel position of balance. Calculation high interference and position of programs is a position of operation surface and applications. Intelligence. See? So that's the line conditions. Intelligence. Intelligence. Okay, done my equation. So the mechanism of high force at the dome centers and now set up location of setting. So we set location of cavity wall. Sets lines walls, connectors, line interference, collaboration line position location, compute system, compute line interference, and atmosphere line rotations, molecule structure line divisions, a 3-set line condition line system, point system attractions, into box line in position triangulation resets, zig line rotation centers, in position of XX, high position location of Y, XX position of travels, 1 position location alpha line rotation, delta communication line set box location center of travel. That equation. All right. So try to understand how this all works in your body frames, how it reacts to location of this division. Okay. Yeah, you have to stay balanced, Mark, because your body modulators are coming into its own set location mind over matter. The body on itself location system is going to go into automatic pilot. The track to its calculation is 3 graphs, 1, 2, and 3 draft locations, right? Drafting communication lines are high calculated lines of points to the systems. Calculation line interference and position of travel calculating line system, high calculation your stream. So this box is position location of 1, 2, 3, 4, and track line connections. 3 lines of provision. Right there. There it is. Boom. All right. So a new Merkaba division is out of the core line of its diamond core in a higher shift line stream in position of vortex stream location of center. Direct line calculating line settings scan position of 0 calculation line streams in high position to its operation surface and set location. Directing communication lines, XT line rotations in 3 set locations in center position to its operation. Triangulation line set locations 1, 2, 3, and 4 set location line set of XT1000 line condition high position. Direct calculation line interference into an XT1000 into the center communication. Direct load calculation line interference center calculation of 3, 2, 1, 0, and track line connections. Done by equation. All right. So all calculation modification of all lines of the bottom line communication now is in a new Merkaba position of design. There's no lines of separation anymore. Triangulation and reset position programs and modification. Done by equation. All right, so getting in that setting location centers, we understand how to formulate its position of travel lines in bracket interference. Too many bracket line rotations are off calculations. So point track lines, indirect signals. Get inline communications, how to get into bracket interference and track location. 4-point systems of travel. Yeah. So getting inline calculation setting of bracket, zero gravity, power over pi, and magnetic high line setting that travel communication. Magnet's high force, 3 weather patterns, inline condition triangulation resets, Fibonacci line, and position of ground sets. This opens all position, location, travel lines, direction of timelines, and 2 panels in travel calculations. So each point system has a center calculation, right? Directs its point system, 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 and track location. Direct calculation line interference, travel calculation of 3 lines, sets position locations at a timestamp and a box line rotation center, theta communication line centers, imagination of phenomena, and set location. Travel direction of timelines, center lines at position to its calculation. All lines in line rotation of phase recognition of time sequence. Down equation. Okay. Setting box centers mechanism high position over power. Now the charge position line calculation streamline. This is where I take 13 communications and we've got 5 calculation lines, right? So the equal line communication now is all levels into a rectangle in line rotation center of travel. It's no longer separated. So you're working with box frequency panel lines of data highway calculation circuits, wall connectors and 2 panels and 4 track locations, right? That's what it is now. No more equal. It's now 2 panels of operation of center grounds, center position to its magnetic highway of information. Container lines and new Merkaba, new tesseract line communication, travel second line calculation lines, the center position to calculation. Okay. So directing communication line centers, the fly direction of time sequence has a panel. That panel of communication line centers sets inhibitor line rotation centers and 3 track line condition system, ground lines operation line system, and 24 line sendings of angles and communication sending attraction. Okay, that equation. All right. So you have to really understand how this is all set up, location inhibitors. Okay, so it's track location rectangle, 2 platforms, 3 lines, and 3 calculations. Right? Batteries in line calculation setting. Data highways are getting in rotation center interactions. Okay? So there's no more separation. Okay? So you're in a battery line rotation center. So 2 track line settings and waving line cycles and high center. Position and travel calculating lines. 0 gravity line rotation center of travel. Okay? 4 to 2 stream interference high position location of travel. Okay? Center calculation lines of magnetic highway formations of travel. 3 set line condition setting, in line communication to a magnetic highway information panel, a set location. Direct line centers, 1 signature stream. Calculation line center, 0 calculation line center into a figure 8 into yin yang of process calculation. Direct lines modifications of pi in center position, center lines of 2, intercalculation of fly direction of time sequence, fly direction of time sequence, flower direction of time sequence, power over line rotations, mechanism high calculating lines, light force triangulation line position locations, 3 line supervisions of pi, 3 line positions of pi, and center calculation lines, a 0 position to its operation surface, and a reset position of programs and set location. Done by equation, guys. Okay. So all calculating line centers now the batteries. Batteries and set location of 2 panels and position circuits over pi calculation of data highways. Your Merkaba in the design line and rotation center is in a new track location setting to a new tesseract of a new design center in track location of Stargate panels in position of programs and center calculating line system, all levels of operation surface, and set design line condition setting of 0 operation. Done by equation. But it's amazing when it comes into track locations, right? All right. Okay, so know exactly what's going on through your line conditions, all levels. especially formulas, equations, locations, centers, attractions, right? So your body's reacting to everything to what now? It's communication of the battery. Congratulations, people. This is the equal line communication that was separated. Okay, but now it's together. Okay, so you got positions up and positions down. See what's going on? Set locations. Send a position of travel. Send a position location of travel. Oh, look at that. Whoa, where are we going? Send in line calculation setting torical fields. Ooh, send a position of flywheel. Woo, what's going on through track line conditions, right? Higher levels of height models and position your body. Fragmentation streamlines and calculation. Down by equation. So all we add now is the triangulation to reset position of programs, setting track lines and high center interference in your direct signals in your position locations in position of balance and all calculation line streams and all calculation. Done by equation. All right, so in that box where you can see, we changed the 3 lines of track lines, setting lines of provision, okay? And we cross the line streams into 4 lines of provision, right? That's 4 lines, track lines of 3. Center line communication is 7, 7, 7, 7. Box position line calculation setting, all calculation. Done by equation, okay? So I'm just showing you how this is all set up, location your centers. Really understand your line communication, how it comes in provision, right? All calculation of the system. Okay? All right, so that's how you set up the design, right? Through structural locations. All through center calculation. See? So you take the equal line communication of 4 lines of 3 line position of the travel position, child calculation line centers, data highway information cycles. So the body itself is turning into a highway. It's got to turn into a highway because of the mix of high position and travel lines is power over pi. Direct calculation line interference, zero gravity line rotations, box line rotations, centers, and travel calculation, triangulation, and reset position programs. Sets lines of communication setting, high position location of travels, and direction of timeline position of this program. Direct calculation of zero operation 2 triangulations, splits and anomalies, 3 lines, cross line streams, inline rotation center, and calculation stream location. All right. Modification lines, 3-point system travels, 3 communication of centers, center calculation line centers and position of its operation, 3 triangulation reset position of programs. Very complicated stuff, right? Now getting into box line rotation centers. The box in rotation center and theta communication is higher levels of grounds. This services triangulation reset position of programs, angle, point, line conditions, high setting. Now, directing lines as panels, equal lines of communication of panel line rotation interference into a rectangular set location line centers of grounds, powers, and the adversaries. Setting the lines of battery communication setting and a data highway and line center line interference at 3 triangulation high position programs is set position of its operation. All right, done by equation. Mechanism line centers of triangulation resets, bypasses. 3 calculation line interference, 3 line triangulation, 3 line rotation, 3 centers. 0 lines position of 1. Sets lines of 0 in position of 1, and 3 line communicates 0, 0 in position of 1 setting. All calculated and modified, right? Bounce, 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 and track locations, right? Measuring accountability, 3 lines of centers, 3 calculations, 3 center positions operation. Triangulation line center line interference, take 3 lines of communication, 3 lines of calculation line interference, add a positive line channel, puts position of 4 track line condition size centers, a box. Box position of travel calculation triangulation, position location of box, set location of travel. Directing lines of communication line centers. 2 panels, communication, 3 lines of pi, 4 lines of generation, 5 lines of 6, 6 lines of 7, 7 lines of 8, and track location. Graphing line calculation streams, energetic dome patterns, line rotation, energy wash communication. Graphing communication lines, centers, drivers and time sequence. Okay, this is where it comes in colossal communication center of travel. Pattern recognition of timelines, lacing line communications of box lines, dimensional scales, dimensional doors, and 3 calculations of pi and calculation stream location. That my equation. So we go through the center calculation streamlines, directing lines of panels and 1 signature. Cross lines 2 and 3 line signatures. Direct lines of grounds, set position to center and position to its operation. Okay? Dimensional doors, splits and anomalies, and 3 track line connections. Setting provision to another line connection setting. 3 waving line rotation centers. Okay? So we open the panel communication lines and high calculation streamlines and direct signals. Okay? Wave and line communication line centers high position. 0 operation, 0 center, 0 calculations. All right. Setting direct line centers into another dimensional door lines in 3 track line condition settings and position of 4 on set location. Done by equation. Now the calculation line setting is all set up. Now when you come into Cerebro, my voice is changing. The same thing is, the cerebral is the center calculation. It's a different tone line. It's got a it's like a major hum. So it's a balanced line center of a dome and line calculation setting into waving line cycles, a high track calculation system. Energetic dome and line rotation center. Track calculated line centers of point systems. Energetic graph line screens, setting direct signals and pendant communications. Circulation and rotation centers and position location setting systems operation. So it's really understand how to use it in mechanism of force recognition of time sequence. Okay. Getting that line center is really understand the center calculating line centers, well as the scales and balance into your galaxy shift lines. See the galaxy shift line? Direct calculating line interference, box line rotation centers, in position location of theta communication to a setting. Try to calculate the lines of flywheel over some time sequence in a 24 panel communication lines of center calculation. Done by equation. Okay. So calculation lines, you place cortex as lines of thoughts, direct lines of theta, sets lines of box, TV reception lines into calculation high center of travel. Direct calculation line interference, highway calculating line centers at 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 panels of communication. Row graph, center graph, power graph, over graph. Okay. Triangulation and reset location in the lacing lines, lacing divisions, lacing correlations, lacing travels, and lacing calculations into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 in set location. Solar sail and track line connections. Direct line communication solar line centers in position to its operation surface and set location. Okay. Center communication line interference. We take the track line calculation setting location of 0. E line calculation of 3, 0, 0. Track location of 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, and 0, 0 track location of center. Okay. Set position location line centers, high position of 4. Sets line calculation of point system 0, 0, and 3 track line connections. Fourth line, high calculation of 4 lines, and set location of 3. Sets position of 7, 7 track locations. Jump scars lines of 7, 7, and position of travel. Mechanism high force line calculations of 8, 8, 8, and 4 track locations. That way, equation. It's all set up through mechanism. Here, collective location of channels, 4-point system track calculations. Now, directing lines of communication of panels has an energetic graph line, screen line rotation centers, and line position location of 24 line signatures, position program location system, and travel. That might equation. Okay. Okay, so you get into your correlations of panels. Correlation high center interference is the alpha line communication. Directing lines of communication center. Okay. So this is where we go into track lines of 3. But we use point, 3-point systems in 0, 0, and 0 operation in 3 settings. Okay? Very complicated stuff. Triangulation resets over cross location. Direct lines of 3-point centers. Point here, point here, point here in chop calculations, right? XT1000 comes in here in center, out of the moon equation settings, out through track line condition high position. Okay? Mechanism high force, half pipe, sets lines at high calculations. Direct lines of sails and 4 line rotation centers of travel. Center line communication high settings opens all signals in position of cross lines 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 in provision of panels. Sets calculation 9, 10, 11, and 12 set location. All right, that equation. Point system of the tracks is line conditions all levels 0, 24. Get calculation of point system 0, 12. Sets line calculation of 48. 0 line communications. 0.72 and line centers of center calculation centers, and 0.1 lines of 4.4 track communication at center communications, indirect signals at communication centers, all operations surface and future adaptation center, calculation of center, calculation of bottom line rotation center traction. That my equation. So I guess you guys are trying to understand what's going on through track locations and body frame settings. All right. It's important to understand your travel mechanism time sequence all through mechanism high position of power. I change these things in body traction. Okay. So, all right. So your body track line centers now set locations. 3 battery line center rotation centers. 3 track lines of center communication. Right. Direct calculation lines of point systems, data highways, highway communication, highway interference, intergalactic communication setting, ethereal plan, into program set location line system, traffic records of time sequence, code whipping, code track lines, high center interference, high position. Now, directing lines of cobweb, direction of timelines, fly direction of time sequence and traction. Okay. Direct calculation of zero lines and center communication setting to all line high rotation center traction. Now, directing line calculating line interference, we set position location system. Now, this comes in high calculations. Mechanism over power and all calculation of Mother Earth and track location. And that's what it is in track lines. Okay. So once you get an understanding of what this is all voluming, it's all voluming you and track location. All right. So gotta really understand how to use your data highways, line condition, your recharging communication setting, because that's where your thoughts go. Your thoughts go through the highways, guys. All right. Box line rotation center. Okay, into rectangular communication setting traction. Setting line connections, all levels of waving line rotation centers, high position to its operation. All right. And calculations, ground lines, operation surface, and travel position to its operation set locations. Okay, where it can modify anything through travel recognition. It travels its position of line directions and point systems. Okay, so you have to really understand how to lace the lines of cell line communications, directing signals, cell line communication. Everything comes in line sequence of going forward. Track location line system, mechanism over power over charge line sending to travel communications. Now, the electric line communication has all position line tractions. So you have 4 provisions, 4 cycles, and all lines of 7 line conditions. Okay, working with 7 bodies of water, track line calculation setting in higher levels of platforms and higher calculation lines and modulations into modulation line setting and travel calculation system and travel recognition. So endpoint systems and position line calculations, crossing line streams and high setting. Okay. So all you got to understand now is the platitude lines of the dimensional doors. It goes on top position of the platforms. This is where it comes into 024, into 048, into 072 in track locations of 0144 and position of power over line setting. Right? Creating those provisions of those dimensional doors, guys. So that's what it is. You're creating that 24, 40, 72, 144. But the track correlations of your moon now is at 0 line rotations. Every time it goes through an hour line cycle, it goes back in 0 on a 24 cycle. Every hour in the hour, every hour in the hour. 100,000 lines into 300,000 line rotation stream. Direct lines of communication setting back into modification line stream interference of DOD. It calculates high interference into its Merkaba of its design, of its original imprint of its set locations, of all amplify settings and track location. Okay? I know, it's pretty powerful, isn't it? It's amazing what we're coming into. Okay? All right, so set up the highways are in streamline calculation setting. Now come into position location atmospheres, hemispheres, stratospheres, biospheres, brachiospheres, location system. Coming into solar generation lines, how to use your Earth perceptions, calculation stream interference, Earth calculated line interference, higher south, the avatar of the sun. Modificate the system location, central line communication lines of body frame position track lines, putting all calculation modifications all levels of navigation. Now this directs the signals. 0 calculation line centers, power ratio times over pi, magnetic high information line system into your data highways applications. Right? So the center calculation line center is coming into the center of communication. Equal line communications into your rectangle of your box line rotations of your battery set location. Okay. So in that line conditions and setting, the battery line rotation center comes in Mercury and position locations and 3 lines in each line centers, 3 line communication of waves, 3 line centers, and 3 center position to its calculation. Right? Data highways, platforms, communications, energetic highways, splitting anomalies, and 3 track lines. So what are the highways? Branches on a tree. Mega pass. Direct lines of communication centers all position its operation system. Travel calculated lines centers high interference. Direct lines of calculation high interference, a tree direction of time sequence. Puts position of patterns, direction of timelines, center line communication setting into your colossal calculated lines, cerebral cortex line calculation interference, indirect state locations to your operation server location system of your life or tree formation line screen, high calculating lines, position its operation system, all lines of data operation state, and high calculated string location detection. Modification centers of attraction. Your life force of design. Okay. So the implementation line interference is your seed pod. Seed pod correlation line interference. It's like water and grass, right? Get in that position location, you're planting a seed inside the ground. It's what does it come up? Position track line. It basically creates its own anomaly aligned conditions of the life force of a tree set location of its design back in a modification setting and track location. Okay. Very powerful how you see line condition of Earth. Powers and timelines is the powers, calculation, and stream locations. So you're coming into all calculation lines and non-line center and high line rotation centers and position location in your system, drivers and timelines in a tree formation of life inside location. That's all you're coming back into. Nothing else, nothing more. Now you understand the provision cycles why you have trees and formation location and setting, calculation, setting, position, operation. So regenerating, restoring calculation of reline position, restoration, people, and track locations. All right. Generation screens of your life force of its design in a tree formation line screen, indirect signals, in all calculation modification system of center calculation line settings in all line rotation centers in position locations to its setting. Done by equation. All right. So if you want to get technical, the center calculating line center is the flyweight timeline. Set position and location. Your position location high interference. The choroidal line rotation center line is your throat, right, which is your tree. Ooh. And your branches are your highways, which means the calculation system to your cerebral cortex line is the cloud of generation. The colossal. Okay. Now you understand the importance of when you see a tree, because everybody's in that formation locations coming back into the original line condition of their design of their seed pod, getting you back in your formation line interference of your life force of your design of set locations, balancing all correlations of panels of Mother Earth in nature resource set location of restoration. Okay, we're done. Done by equation. It's amazing how we set up line calculations and settings of formulas all through equation. That's right. That's right, Anita. The tree of life. That's all you come back to. Nothing else. Now you understand what your throat is. So your throat is actually the tree, and the branches are the data, the highways, and position of the galaxy line is the omni line position to its magnetic highway information system, which is your cloud. You look up, that's what you see. But as you see yourself from inside line connections, all through operation line centers, the inner line communication to outer space and track location, inner orbits, outer orbits. The inner cycle becomes the outer cycle. The outer cycle becomes the inner cycle. Okay, very powerful formula of what we did in an equation line setting. Coming back into your life force of design, the tree of life. Okay? Any questions? Let me know. See you in 5. Adios.